Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the Choose Your Path to Hyperautomation Contact Center Edition webinar event hosted by Ashling Partners and UiPath. We have a really exciting webinar event for you, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We have Brad and Sushma here as your hosts for today's webinar event. I'm going to hand things over to them to give their introductions and kick things off.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today. And my name is Sushma Anaparthi, and I'm currently serving as advisory for insurance at Ashling Partners. And I'm really looking forward to talking more about the application of automation in the contact center space to really bring in the efficiencies and successfully run a contact center. Thank you.
And thanks, Sushma. Hi, everyone. Brad Beimer. I'm with UiPath. Within UiPath, I lead our customer experience and contact center automation group. So what that means is I work with customers, partners, clients, and others around how they can use the UiPath product or envision how you can use the UiPath platform to help improve customer experience and all the sorts of goals and metrics that we're going to talk a little bit about today around that. And I'm really excited about this because we're going to do a choose your own adventure style presentation. And maybe we like to say we're going to let you choose your own UI path. So with that, Sushma, I think that's our introduction. So I'm going to hand things back over to you to kick us off.
Great, thanks, Brad. Just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about, at Ashling Partners, what we do. So as you can see here, Ashling Partners helps our, clients and customers to, educate, build, and improve in the hyperautomation space. So, we work towards bringing in that education and awareness on the RPA and the hyperautomation, help identifying, potential automation opportunities, helping with the business case development. And then once those are identified, then we also help with building and implementation of that, leveraging, different, automation capabilities like RPA or AI, ML, etc. And, once they're implemented and deployed, that's where really the crux is to maintain the digital workforce, and that's where the improve comes in, is to making sure that we have the right governance structure and the framework in place to efficiently support the digital workforce. So, this is what we do at Ashling Partners. And if any of you are interested to learn more, we'll be happy to talk through. Next slide, please. And how we do that is really the crux of it, right? So this is where we bring in the 4 A's, which is the advisory, the automation, analytics, and AI. So by bringing in this 4 A's, our goal is to provide the most efficient and the most scalable and the strategic solutions to our customers. With that, I'll hand it over to Brad to talk a little bit about the UiPath and automation platform. Over to you, Brad.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Sushma. So for those of you not familiar with robotic process automation, or RPA, or really around what an automation platform is, let me talk a little bit about that. So anything a person does with their keyboard, with their mouse, oftentimes we can find that a robot can actually handle those same interactions. Now, I like this graphic because what you see on the screen here is oftentimes what we see in contact centers with contact center agents, where they have a lot of different applications organized on their windows. The only real difference here is that you only see one monitor. Oftentimes, what do we find? We'll find 2 or more monitors. Now the robots and what they do, that's helpful, but really what we find is that those robots need some help. They need to be surrounded with capabilities. And this is where the automation platform part of what we're discussing comes into play. So how do you help discover the best automation opportunities? Well, used to be that had to be a very manual task. And today we can actually use tools. We have tools to help automate also a lot of the process of actually finding those high value automation opportunities. Now, once you found them and you start building them, you should be able to build in a low code way, and also have tools that don't require deep coding skills. You want to be able to have tools that allow citizen developers, but also maybe those professional developers, those coders alike, that they can use. And then finally, once you've had these robots in place, how do you engage with them? How do you bring a person into the loop when they're needed? Robots not always going to be able to do everything end to end. And sometimes we might need to bring a person or a human in the loop with help with that. And we also have another tool that's a low-code tool that helps your people actually engage with these robots. So I'm going to show you a demo of that a little bit later on. It's based on our low-code apps product. So that's the high-level overview of RPA and also automation, or an automation platform. This goes into a little bit more detail around some of those same concepts. And you can see a number of personas, number of end users. We try to make an automation platform that's available or accessible to a number of different groups, from business analysts to your developers. And here you can see along the continuum that discovery process. Okay, once you discovered, how do you build those solutions? How do you manage and run them? How do you engage? And then finally, the part I didn't talk a lot about previously was, how do you measure? How do you measure that those automations are providing the ROI, the value and the benefit that you plan for them to? So that's where those tools all come into play, all into one space. And you see a few logos down here. We have connectors and adapters that help speed the process of developing or creating or configuring the automations, but this isn't everything. We can integrate, the key to RPA is that we can integrate, whether it's through an API or a user interface integration, with really just about any application or system that's out there, including legacy, I-series, Z-series, mainframe, and mid-range type applications, usually run through a green screen or emulator. And also any homegrown applications. So those .NET homegrown applications, Java, J2E homegrown applications. What about Visual Basic and maybe older client server type applications? Those can all be automated as well. So that's a little bit of an overview around the platform. Everything we talk about from here on out is going to be more focused on customer experience, but we wanted to lay that foundation on Ashling Partners and what they bring to the table in terms of helping you actually implement these solutions. So what happens when you've actually discovered those automations, started, and we want to go out and configure and build and run those? We need partners that can help us with that. And then also this platform overview too, and how it'll apply to customer experience. So let's dive into that. Sushma, you want to talk a little bit about your experience here?
Sure, Brad. Thank you. So contact center, right? Oftentimes, one question that I hear is, is the contact center same as call center? Or if not, what's the difference, right? So, while the call centers primarily, one of the main channels that they serve their customers is through, taking, through the telephone only channel. The contact center supports the customer interactions across a variety of channels, including phone calls, email, web chat, IVR, chatbots. And I think, today's customers are demanding much more convenience and personalized services, and a multi-channel approach is going to help the contact centers get there. However, there are certain factors that are influencing the contact center, just like they're influencing any other business. But what is that specifically impacting contact center currently is like the hiring shortages and the agent turnover. Why agent turnover? Because agents are really looking for, when I say agent, it could be referred to as a contact center agent, or in some organizations they are referred to as contact center reps. But they're looking for, to do a much more meaningful work by, and not too much on the most repetitive and manual work. So they're looking for that, the work, the satisfaction in the work that they are doing that can truly add value to the organization. And the Great Resignation, we all have heard about this, the year of Great Resignation 2021, and has caused unforced and unplanned workforce management issues. And the global pandemic, which probably no need to highlight this, but we have all seen how COVID has really changed most of the, or impacted the way certain things has been done. And it has its mark in the contact center space as well. So because of the COVID, or because of the pandemic, there are increased call escalations and hold times, leading to reduced employee and customer satisfaction. So this is a great opportunity to see what other options are there, in addition to just keeping on adding agents or leveraging and increasing the hold times. What else can we leverage to make this more efficient, to address situations like this more efficiently? And then comes the unpredictable external forces, right? In addition to the great year of resignation and the global pandemic, this is something that could happen anytime, whether it is like the catastrophic weather events or cybersecurity threats, which are all creating a massive customer service challenges. So what can we do to make this, or make this easy, or I would say, or to better handle these situations, right? So next slide, please. So contact center KPIs. So KPIs are nothing but the key performance indicators, right? So contact center KPIs are the measures that the contact centers managers use to determine the success of their operations. How efficiently a contact center is being run can be determined by looking at some of these KPIs. What are some of the general KPIs that are defined or measured by in the contact center? One of them is the first call resolution, which is also called as FCR. So this basically measures the contact center's ability to resolve the customer issues on the first call, on the first contact, rather than having to go back and forth and multiple follow-ups required. So how efficiently is our framework or the system in place to be able to do that? And the next one is the average handling time. So it's basically measuring the length of the time from when an agent answers until the customer disconnects from the call. How long is it taking? Is it taking 2 minutes or is it taking 10 minutes? And on an average, how much should it take? What is the industry average for that? So this is the average handling time and first call resolution are very important critical KPIs tied to a contact center. And then the average time to answer. So this evaluates like the average amount of time from when the agent received the inbound call versus until it is answered by an agent, and the average hold time. How long is the customer on the hold, and transfer rate. How many times that call has to be transferred internally to get that to get an answer or to service that specific customer. So these are all the areas that we should be looking for in terms of, as the contact centers are trying to increase efficiencies, right? Increase agent productivity and increase, which all of this will in turn increase the customer satisfaction. So now in today's webinar, let us look at how automation can be leveraged to improve these KPIs and turn the customers into a lifetime advocates. So with that, I'll be handing it over to Brad, who will be talking more about how automation can be leveraged to increase the customer experience and address some of this. Over to you, Brad.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sushma. I'm going to call a bit of an audible here and just say, for those of you in the conversation today, if you have other metrics that you're looking at or measuring that we don't have listed here, put those in the chat window. We'd be interested in learning more about those and talking about them. And I'll try to weave in how we can help impact those metrics using automation. But Sushma, I think the one other metric, and I know we talked about this, and I'll just highlight it more later, but just to go along with that, what do all these metrics that we see on the screen, what do they all impact? They all impact customer satisfaction, sometimes measured by Net Promoter Score. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later as we get into the conversation. But I just wanted to highlight that is that we didn't leave out Net Promoter Score and we didn't leave out customer satisfaction, because we really see all these metrics having an impact on NPS.
That's right, Brad. Yeah, all of this will eventually, help us to increase the score for the ones that you mentioned. It will eventually help us to get there.
Yeah, sounds good. So again, put those metrics, if you have other metrics that you're focused on or looking at, put them in the chat window and we'll weave those into the presentation here. So let's talk a little bit about customer experience improvement goals and priorities and initiatives, and where automation tends to fit in. So probably the number one area, not probably, it is the number one area where I get the most questions today is, how can automation enhance my existing self-service options? How can it add new self-service options or just improve what we already have in place? So think of this as a robot is sitting between your channels. So your channels being your phone system, email, maybe your chatbots, if you have chatbots. If not, it could be new. How do we support those chatbots today or future? And other channels too, social media sometimes comes into play here, of course, web and mobile applications. And then how do you connect those channels with all the different backend systems and processes that are inside your organization? Well, what happens? Usually you need an agent. This is where you have to call in or email in or live chat in to talk to somebody to say, hey, I can't get my account unlocked in the portal, or hey, I need help filing a claim or looking up the status of my case or ticket. Well, a lot of what those agents do could actually be automated using, or could actually be done using RPA and automation. So now you can kind of think of the robot as sitting between those channels and those systems and doing what the agent could maybe doing, or maybe require an agent in some of those cases today. I mentioned a couple, password reset and account unlock. That's one that's common across just about any industry. Others that we see are the typical in retail and manufacturing, distribution, the WISMO use cases. Where's my order? Where's my stuff? What's my shipping status, payment status? In insurance and others, it might be claims, asking questions about a claim, the payment status of a claim. And we could go on there. Oftentimes, the best way to find automation opportunities here is just to look at your contact center report. So your contact center team, and for those of you that are maybe in this role today, you'll generate a report maybe every day, every week, every month, every quarter that goes through your top interaction types. And I say interaction because these could be calls, they could be emails, they could be chats, social media conversations, etc. Look through those, and oftentimes we'll find opportunities where we say, you know what, this interaction probably doesn't really require an agent. So is that something where we could use a robot together with our existing channels to help automate, to help improve to help offer as a self-service option? This is also another win-win area because it helps improve customer satisfaction. We find that it helps improve Net Promoter Score, and it helps reduce costs because it's a lot less costly to service a customer, to care for a customer here than what it is when they need to talk to an agent. Now, knowing not everyone is going to be able to self-serve, we have opportunities to help agents boost productivity as well. We oftentimes think about this in terms of cost savings, but a lot of the clients we work with today are looking at how do we improve Net Promoter Score? How do we improve upsell rates? How do we improve cross-sell opportunities and conversion rates? That's where the robot really works with the agent as a buddy to help them with those customer interactions and to improve some of those metrics we just discussed. Now, another area is in operations. So these are your team leads, your managers, your supervisors who are spending a lot of their time onboarding agents, offboarding agents, scheduling, managing schedules, maybe manual compliance or quality assurance activities. A lot of those activities can be automated so that those team leads and supervisors can start focusing on, or focus more on, actually working with your contact center agents and mentoring and guiding and helping again to improve customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction. I like this quote down here. We use that a lot. All right, Alexandra, I think we're ready for our first poll question. I will stop sharing and send this over to you. Now, we mentioned at the start of the conversation that we were going to let you choose your own UI path. So we've got some questions that we have lined up here. And based on your responses, we'll go to a specific part of our presentation. So you should see a poll question popping up on your screen now. And just to read that out, what areas are you investing in? Do you want to invest in? So we talked about self-service. Do you want to increase call deflection rates? Agent productivity. Do you want to use a robot together with your agents as a buddy that we were mentioning? Or maybe it's more on the operational side. How do you automate the quality assurance process that might be manual today, or some of those other manual tasks that your managers and contact center managers and others might be doing? So Alexander, just let me know when we have the questions in. I'm just checking the chat window as well to see if we have any metrics in the input. It doesn't look like it. While we're waiting on those.
Close this in just a few seconds.
Okay, sounds good. Is that my cue to stop talking?
Just letting you know, we're just getting a couple more responses in here.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so it looks like operations is the big winner for our first question. So as we choose our own UI path here, I'm going to get our presentation queued up for an operations discussion. We have a good video there that we'll show you as well. Excellent. All right, let's share our screen. All right, operations. So operations all around, how do we help those managers, team leads, and others to reduce manual effort? So this is where, so when I first started in the contact center space, I won't say how long ago it was, but these opportunities weren't really, they weren't viable because oftentimes there were just a small percentage of the contact center staff that actually did the onboarding, the offboarding, managed schedules, some of the other activities, the kudos, the gamification, the scheduling training for agents, scheduling reviews with the team leads and supervisors. And then what we're going to show a demo around is the manually listening to phone calls for scorecarding, and also today manually reviewing emails and chats for scorecarding too. Anyway, those opportunities, they weren't typically good automation opportunities because of the low number of people that actually did them compared to the number of agents. But one of the things that we talked about citizen development earlier, and it's one of the areas where we've been able to really open up these automation opportunities, because now they don't, with citizen development, they don't require the same amount of investment to automate some of these manual tasks that these team leads and managers are doing. And when you automate them, again, when you automate those tasks that are maybe required every day, every week, every month, what does that do? That gives them back time to actually focus on mentoring and guiding agents, which is really probably the primary role and responsibility of a lot of these team leads. What we found with some of the customers that have used UiPath in these use cases and examples that I provided earlier is that conservatively, very conservatively here, a 20% manual effort reduction. So think about that in terms of days. So let's just assume someone's working 5 days a week. That's a day back. That's a day back to mentor and guide agents. You can think about the soft skills training and the empathy training and the other training and guidance that you're able to give an agent or a group of agents based on getting that extra time back. You got to think that that's going to improve your customer satisfaction and your employee satisfaction as well. So reducing turnover. I don't have hard metrics that confirm that, but I have to believe it's the case. You'll see some other numbers here too that lead to that also play in here, but really this automation is around how do we reduce manual effort. Now the other part here is I mentioned that we can help automate some of those manual quality assurance process steps. So this might be individuals who are manually reviewing phone calls, call recordings, make sure that statements were read at the beginning, the opening statements were read, the closing statements were read. If there's any compliance, for example, we have a client that where a compliance script is required anytime a customer is switching from one financial institution to another financial institution. You want to make sure those things are happening. And oftentimes that process is manual. Well, you can actually use a robot to help detect some of those activities. And we'll provide a confidence score that says, okay, here's how confident the robot was and that the agent followed all the steps that are in your scorecard versus maybe they didn't. And based on those confidence scores and thresholds, you might bring a human into the loop. So if it's a low confidence, let's say 60% or less, maybe you'll want to bring a human into the loop to review what the robot found. But even then, that's a lot less work for that individual to perform. So let's take a look at this example. Take a look at a demo that really highlights this. So in this demonstration, you're going to see a combination of RPA and AI working together. AI is going to help with that analyzing the text of a conversation. In this case, it's going to be a transcript from a chatbot conversation. Could be an email, could be a voicemail, could be a call recording that has been converted from speech to text. Once we've determined, in this example, that the sentiment is low for these calls, we're actually going to create cases. Those cases will be assigned to the agent's team lead or manager, in this case, their team lead. And at the end of the conversation, we'll actually provide a report back to the manager. And in one case, you'll actually see us, one automation, you'll actually see us creating and assigning a learning management course, a soft skills course to the agent. So a lot of those steps that I just described are steps that a team lead or supervisor or manager has to take manually today, but we can automate those. So let's take a look. Now we're starting the robot here on the right-hand side of the screen. You can actually do this automatically, so you don't necessarily have to come into the screen here. So our robot is scoring. This is an example of the chat transcript, of one of the chat transcripts that we're scoring. We're going through and reviewing several now. One of the other things we often find in contact centers is that only a small percentage of these interactions actually get scored. Because what? Because there isn't time to do it. But if the robot can actually, robot's doing this 24/7 by 365, doesn't need breaks, doesn't take holidays, any of that sort of stuff. So now you're able to get what? You're able to get 100% coverage on your tickets on your chat and emails and other interactions that you need to score. So I stopped it right here just so you can get an idea of what this looks like. So in this case, we're looking at sentiment. So our model, it's an out-of-the-box model that comes with UiPath. We're scoring the sentiment. Anything that's very negative, and we also have a high confidence that it was negative, we're going to create a ticket for the team lead to review this with the agent. So that's the next step here. For all those that were very negative, and we also have a high confidence that they were negative, we're going to create the tickets that you see on the screen now. So you can see some of these are emails, some of these are calls, some of them were chats, and those are all being assigned to the team lead. Now the next part here that we did for those that are, maybe we had 3 negative conversations over the course of a day, we might actually assign a soft skills course like what you see here. Most contact centers will have their own learning management system with soft skills or empathy training or specific skills training. The robot can go through and use that. Here you see an example of the report. So the report was emailed to the manager. You can see our different chats here, chat session, what the sentiment looked like, what the confidence in that sentiment was. And this is in an Excel sheet, but many of you may use tools like Tableau or Power BI for visualizations. This data can also be plugged into those tools as well. So that gives you an idea of how we can automate. It's an art of the possible idea of how you can use the platform to help automate the QA process for call recordings, for voicemails, for chats, conversations, for emails, and really could be social media and other channels too. All right, so Alexander, I think we have another poll question, right? And it goes back to, okay, I'll hand it over to you. Let me stop sharing. And this poll question goes back to the metrics that we were talking about earlier. So which metrics are most important to you? What are your biggest customer experience goals? What are the metrics that you would most want to impact? The first call resolution that Sushma was describing earlier, maybe reducing wait time, reducing cost, call deflections related to those self-service options. So keeping the calls, emails, and chats from actually reaching an agent. Help a customer help themselves. I wish I could vote. I can't vote. Oh, we have a tie. Improve. Actually, that's good because we can use the same one for both. Good. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for joining us, Scott. All right. Sushma, do I keep interrupting you? I think you wanted to jump in there.
Thank you for joining, Scott.
Okay, let's talk about reducing costs and where this comes into play. And I like this one because I have another demonstration set up for this. So this is going to be around how we actually help empower contact center agents. So this is the robot buddy that we mentioned earlier. And oftentimes we think about this in terms of reducing average handling time. Just gonna make a quick change here. In terms of reducing average handling time is often thought of as reducing what? Reducing cost. But we mentioned this earlier, all those metrics that we mentioned, average handle time, first contact resolution, and others really impact customer satisfaction, net promoter score. So if your customers are spending 30% less time on the phone, that means wait times to talk to an agent decrease. A lot of the contact center customers I talk to are at 80% or less of their normal staffing level. So if you can reduce wait times, if you can reduce the amount of time an agent has to spend on certain interactions, that's going to increase the average speed of answer and other metrics that, again, can increase net promoter score. Also, if your customers get their problem fixed the first time, what does that impact net promoter score? Now, if they're happy customers and net promoter score is increasing, what does that lead to? Hey, they're more likely to buy off on an upsell offer, right? A lot of tools, a lot of CRM and customer engagement tools today actually offer or include next best action or upsell and cross-sell conversion offers within them. The robot can go out and find those offers and bring them up and present them to the agent. And when the agent presents them, happy customer, more likely to buy off on it. I sound like a broken record. I think I said that once before. This number over here is general. I oftentimes get a lot of questions about this number. We have an ROI calculator that we'll use, that your partner Ashling can use to actually calculate a number that is specific to your business and your situation. This is a general number. It's an average across a number of organizations that have worked with us in automating their contact center. So one of the big questions that we often get asked, one of the first questions that we often get asked is, well, how do we actually get started with automation in the contact center? And oftentimes we see a customer or client that'll focus on one specific call type. But really, if you want to get the value and you want to see the big bang for your buck, so to say, it's about automating the entire day, entire journey of an interaction with a customer. And these say calls, I use calls a lot, but this also, again, applies to emails, applies to live chats. So we can have a robot, and to start my day, we can have a robot that actually starts as soon as the agent logs into their PC. Well, that robot can get logged into all the different applications, scheduling, the workforce management tool, clock the agent in. For work from home, sometimes you have to send a Slack to your manager to let them know that you're now available and ready to go and taking phone calls or handling emails, whatever it might be. A robot can do all that for you so that you're able to focus on really getting your day started. Also, sometimes we find that there's a troubleshooting robot here. I mentioned work from home. Troubleshooting robot can be used to help troubleshoot what's wrong with a VPN connection, what's wrong with the Citrix or similar VDI connection, browser plugin issues. Maybe an update was rolled out and there's a setting that needs to be updated. Basically, the robot's following the exact same triage or checklist that an IT service desk person would, but instead of the agent being off the phones and needing to talk to that IT service desk person, the robot's doing it for them, getting them on the phones faster. Now, once we're there, we can help start the call. So if you have a screen pop, great. If not, we can actually help provide the screen pop. Once we've helped start the call, we oftentimes know what that call type is, so we can help guide the conversation. Like we were talking about earlier, might be someone calling in about status of a claim, filing a new claim, creating a ticket, updating a ticket, placing a new order, all those call types right across industry. Now that we've had the robot throughout the conversation, what can we do? We can use that robot to help us generate the after call work notes. So it's been there throughout the entire conversation. It's tracked what's going on. So those call disposition notes that we need to enter into the CRM, the billing, and other systems, we can actually help automate. You can also help automate any follow-up emails or handoffs to other teams. And these are usually nice benefits. We had one of our customers, Wells Fargo, that presented at our Forward event in October, and they talked about how this automation alone generated a 10% boost for their contact center. And they're also a good example of how you use automation throughout the entire life cycle of an interaction and a day. All right, let's show a demo. I'm just going to switch my screen over here real quick, and security has logged me out, but that's okay. Just while I'm getting logged in here, any questions, comments, please put them into the chat window, and we will work to answer them. So what I'm bringing up here is UiPath's low-code tool. This is our cloud environment. You can also run this on premises if you would like, or if you prefer. This is the tool that helps bring together all the different systems that an agent may use. And we oftentimes find that agents need to use 6 to 8 different applications over the course of an interaction with a customer. So this tool is going to bring those 6 to 8 different applications into one window and into one screen. And your agents wouldn't necessarily go through the process that you just saw in the window there. I'd have to do that for security purposes. They would actually start here. When their phone call first comes in, this is the screen they would see. And what you're looking at here is the robot actually going out and doing the work. It's pulling the data from the CRM application. It's pulling the data, like you see here, from multiple legacy applications. It's putting together the list of appointments that we may need to follow up on, and also any other data and actions that are here too. So we've got our CRM data. This came from an API. We've got our products and services data. That came from the mainframe, that green screen that you saw pop up. By the way, in the real world, that green screen would be in the background. We actually do that for demo purposes, just so you see that there's actually some work that the robot's doing. But in the real world in a contact center, agent would never actually see that screen. We pulled some historical details and some historical data. We see that Mike was recently submitted via the chatbot his home equity loan approval. So this brings in the omni-channel aspect of things. And we can also help guide the agent through processes. So that's actually why Mike's calling in today. We can start a robot to go out and run a credit check with Equifax. So those external systems that an agent may need to go to, robot did all the work, logged into Equifax, set Mike's details. We already know Mike's personal information. Robot can send it off to there. We can check the credit score. We can apply a rule that say, hey, he has great credit, all is green, he's good to go. But I know we're running a little bit short on time, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how this tool can be used to help combine, and a robot can be used to combine lots of different data sources into one screen. Whether they have an API or not, doesn't matter for us. We can go through the user interface, just like you saw with the green screen that popped up earlier. And we can also, the robots can also perform routine tasks like, for example, in this case, the credit check, or maybe looking up room rates or resetting an ATM, and anything else that the agent may need to do to help, in this case, service our customer, Mike. All right, let's go back to our screen here. So Sushma, Alexandra, do we have any questions or comments in the that we want to get to? Anything that I forgot to cover? Sometimes I get going and forget things.
No, I think you touched on things very well, especially what I wanted to reiterate is the looking at it as an end-to-end journey, right? Rather than just going to a specific point and trying to automate that or make it more efficient. That end-to-end journey, looking at it more, end-to-end is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, thanks again, everyone, whoever joined the webinar today. Again, this is a really exciting topic, and I'm sure, we are seeing that more and more organizations are really either have already started or really looking, into this, the contact center space. And what Brad presented us today is a great information in terms of, like, what is the art of possible in this space. And one thing I would like to say before we close off is that, today's customer is expecting that a customer service agent, really know who they are and why they are calling even before they pick up the phone. So that is the level of expectation. So that just explains that, what is the opportunity landscape in the space, and how proactively we need to be in terms of servicing our customers. And hopefully this is where the hyperautomation can help us to get there. With that, thanks again, and thank you, Brad.